today during our time, I wanted to take a second and present a challenge to you, a challenge to me as well, and just challenge us to how do we ask God for things? What do we expect when we ask God for things? How does God answer those needs and those wants? And so I wanted to look at a passage in Matthew in chapter 7, and I'm just going to read 7 through 11 for us and just see how it is Jesus tells his disciples they're supposed to be asking God for things. And then how he challenges those that are listening to understand what ways God rewards us with questions, how God answers those questions and those needs. And so in Matthew 7, starting in verse 7, it says, "Keep on asking and it will be given to you. Keep on seeking and you will find. Keep on knocking at the door and the door will be open to you. For everyone who keeps on asking receives, and he who keeps on seeking finds, and to him who keeps on knocking the door will be opened. Or what man is there of you, if his son asks him for a loaf of bread, will hand him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will hand him a serpent? If you then, evil as you are, know how to give good and advantageous gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven, perfect as he is, give good and advantageous things to those who keep on asking him?" And so I want us to just take a second and look at this passage, because there's a couple of things happening here. One, Jesus is telling those that are listening to continually ask God. Ask for the things you need. Lean on him. Understand that he can and will provide. And then understanding that sometimes that means that you just ask and ask and ask. He says, if you are seeking, you will find. If you knock on that door, God will open it. And so the question is not if, but instead it's are you asking? Are you really leaning into God and asking for what it is you need? Now, I'm not talking about asking for, a lottery winning ticket or a new car, but asking for needs, not wants, needs. What is it you need, and how does God provide that? And then he takes a step back and kind of switches this role here and challenges those who are parents in the audience. How do you answer your children when they ask you, right? When they ask for a fish, do you give them a snake? When they ask for bread, do you give them a stone? And the challenge is very simple. If we as imperfect humans, if we as sinful people who struggle with rebelling against God and doing the right thing on a continuous basis, if we who struggle with sin know that there is a time to give a good gift, right? When your child asks for a loaf of bread, when your child asks for a bite to eat, are you handing them a stone? If they ask for a fish, if they ask for just, sustenance, something to make it through to dinner, something to make it through the night, are you giving them a snake? Right? And if we understand that those are the good gifts, that those are what needs to be responded with, right? A fish, not a snake, a piece of bread, not a stone, then how much more will God answer? How much better will God's responses be to when we ask him for what we need? For what we're struggling with, for what we're having a hardship with, for what we're trying to get through. And a lot of us are dealing with a lot of tough things right now. There's a lot of things going on in this world that are scary and that are really out of our control. We're just kind of along for the ride. But I want us to take a moment, think very hard, and look at what it is we're asking God for. Because Jesus tells us as long as we're asking, God's going to answer. And God's going to give us what we need in good measure. In goodness. He's going to provide the best option for us. And so how do you lean into that question? How do you lean into that seeking of God? And then understand that God is in control. That when he gives you what you need, that it's the best possible thing you could be getting. There are stories after stories in my life of God doing that for me that at the time I thought were catastrophes, were bad answers, were wrong things, that I can look back now and see God really was giving me the best possible gift. When I asked for bread, he was giving me bread. When I asked for fish, he was giving me what I needed in that moment. Whether I saw it then or not, I can look back and see it now. And so I want us to just kind of walk through this next week, really challenging yourself. Every day, just pray to God and ask for what it is you're struggling with, for what it is you're having a hardship with. And see if he answers. See how he answers. See how good he answers. And another thing is just look back in your life and see where God has answered prayers, has helped you through hardships up to this point. I hope we can go out from this with just a little bit better understanding, maybe a little bit more discipline of asking God for what it is we need and expecting Him to give us a good and righteous response. Thanks for joining us today.